Making meals in advance isn't for husbands. It's not fair to growing Sergio. That's what you get from a woman raised in a single-mother household. My Mill, sneaking in while I cared for my mom, made a spiteful remark. That's right, you didn't clean my shirts, too. Don't slack off on household chores. My husband chimed in with a sigh. I retorted with a trembling voice. My mom needs care. I can't neglect her. I'm her only caregiver. My husband scoffed. Leave the old hag alone. His words angered me, so I lashed out in response. How dare you? Families help each other, right? And you could help with household chores too. Then, my Mill looked down on me and said, helping each other. Even if we ever need help, there's no way I'd ask that single mother hag to do anything for us. Those words ignited a fiery rage within me. They exploited me, looked down on my mom being a single mother, and then had the audacity to say something so cruel. Neither my husband nor Mill will get away with this. I'll definitely take revenge on them. This is the story of my despicable husband and the fate of my Mill. My name is Michaela. At 37, I've been married to Danny, a company employee 3 years older than me, for 15 years. We met through his business dealings. Even after marriage, we both continued working at our respective companies where we'd been employed before. Raised by a single mom after my dad's early death, I was thrilled when Danny proposed, thinking we could build a warm family together. My mom, who raised me, was also delighted with our marriage, and we soon welcomed our son, Sergio. Sergio is already in his second year of middle school. But if you were to ask if we're living happily, the truth is far from it. I have a major problem. One day after work, my Mill called. Though I sighed at the thought, I couldn't ignore it. Hello. Michaela, could you do me a favor and pick something up on your way back? I just finished work and have something to do afterward. I don't care. Just go get me some muffins right away. Okay. Well, please wait. The call ended abruptly, leaving me sighing. Sadly, this wasn't anything unusual. My Mill always finds reasons to give me tasks, and if I can't do them perfectly, she'll nag incessantly. This time, I had no choice but to listen, so I bought some muffins she requested and headed to my in-laws' house. Greeted with a frown, my Mill opened the shopping bag. Oh my, this isn't what I asked for. I wanted chocolate muffins. Looking at what I bought, my Mill exaggerated her disappointment. But you just told me you want some muffins. I replied, perplexed. What are you saying? I clearly said I wanted chocolate muffins. Since you brought something different, I won't pay for it. It's not fair. You have to pay for it. It costs $30. No, how awful. You're so greedy with money. Growing up in a single mother household made you this shamelessly cheap. Surprised by her words, I was taken aback as my Mill continues. Michaela, are you counting on our wealth? How pathetic, right, dear? Without looking up from his newspaper, my Phil just muttered, yeah. I was speechless with frustration. My Phil runs a business and my Mill is a homemaker. Financially, they were supposed to be quite affluent, yet they would often ask for things, find reasons to complain, and ultimately refuse to pay for anything. My Mill readily criticizes me while my Phil remains indifferent. It's a recurring situation, making me feel miserable. I have to leave now. I left the house in tears while my Mill happily eats muffins. In a rush, I head to the hospital. Opening the door to the hospital room, I see a student's back. Sergio, you're here. How's Mom doing? Sergio and my mom greet me with smiles. Hi, Mom. Michaela, thanks for coming to see me. You've been a big help. My mom recently had a minor stroke and is hospitalized. My dad passed away early, leaving my kind mom to raise me single-handedly while working in caregiving. Michaela, how's things with Danny? Everything okay? Yay, Mom, don't worry. Everything's fine. Not wanting to worry my mom, who always wishes for my happiness, I couldn't tell her about the situation at my in-laws' house. After chatting with my mom lying in bed and leaving her a change of clothes with Sergio, we left the hospital. On the way home, I talked with Sergio. Despite entering his teens and becoming a bit cheeky lately, he's generally a good kid, talking about school and friends. Sergio, thanks for always visiting your grandma. It's no big deal. I like her. She's nice, but what? Never mind. Arriving home, Danny, already back from work, lounges on the sofa watching TV. I'm home. Sorry, I'm late. Hey, where's my dinner? Not ready yet. I had to run an errand for my meal after work, too. Shut up. Just cook my dinner right away. Feeling frustrated with my uncommunicative husband's shouting, I reluctantly start cooking. My ability to keep going is thanks to my mom and Sergio being there for me. With that in mind, I continue my tasks. In the midst of these days, one day we received a call from the hospital. Apparently, my mom's stroke had recurred. Immediately after the surgery, the results weren't good, and my mom was left severely disabled. She couldn't move or speak. And so, my life as a caregiver began. Before and after work, I'd visit her, tirelessly attending to her needs. While I explained my situation at work and got some flexibility, at home, household chores started slipping, leading Danny to constantly complain. Then, one day, returning exhausted from the hospital, I found my Mel had visited without notice. Danny was already home. "Yo, you're back," Mill said sarcastically. "Sorry, I went to the hospital for my mom." "Why are you here today?" Another visit." Danny said there's no dinner, so I brought some ready-made food. Danny, discontentedly, was eating what my Mill had brought. "But, I told you this morning that your dinner is in the fridge." When I said to Danny, my Mill sharply retorted, "Making meals in advance isn't for husbands. It's not fair to growing Sergio. That's what you get from a woman raised in a single-mother household." Danny chimed in. "That's right, you didn't clean my shirts, too. Don't slack off on household chores." I retorted with a trembling voice, "My mom needs care. I can't neglect her. I'm her only caregiver." Then, Danny sneered, "Leave the old hag alone." In response to such words from Danny, I snapped back angrily, "How dare you? Families help each other, right? And you could help with household chores too." Then, my Mill looked down on me and said, "Helping each other. Even if we ever need help, there's no way I'd ask that single mother hag to do anything for us." Shocked and furious, I held back my anger. "Just shut up and do your household chores. Don't let this happen again." Though I wanted to shout, I couldn't, thinking of my mom and Sergio. I didn't want to worry my bedridden mom. And for Sergio's sake, divorce wasn't an easy option. Faced with smirking Danny and my Mill, I had to swallow my anger. A week later, my mom's stroke recurred. Despite all efforts, she passed away. I clung to her, crying, while Sergio cried beside me. My one and only mother. She cared for me and Sergio until the end. Memories flooded back, and tears flowed uncontrollably. Still, there were things to do. As the chief mourner, I held my mom's funeral. Though modest, colleagues from my mom's work came to pay respects, creating a warm service. But as the funeral neared its end, I realized something. Approaching absent-minded Danny at the venue, I asked, "Hey, why haven't your parents come?" "Oh, I told them, but they didn't bother coming," he said nonchalantly, shocking me. "What do you mean? They don't need to come to an old hag's funeral, right?" Laughing, my husband continued, disbelief evident in my gaze. "Hey, by the way, is it true you inherit $2 million? I heard from your relatives." It was true. My mom inherited substantial wealth when my dad passed. She worked to ensure my comfort, leaving much of it untouched for me. Even after taxes, it exceeds $2 million. Angered by Danny's talk of inheritance even before mourning my mom, I rebuffed him. "That's none of your business." With a malicious grin, he added, "Well, my family is wealthy too. I'm not counting on your inheritance. But what? I doubt it's really $2 million. Your mom seemed poor." His words shattered something inside me. They exploited me, looked down on my mom being a single mother, and then had the audacity to say something so cruel. I'll definitely take revenge on them. As I tried to compose myself in the lounge, feeling a mix of grief for my lost mom and anger towards Danny, someone placed a hand on my shoulder. I turned to see Sergio, tears glistening in his eyes. And Sergio, looking straight at me, said, "Mom, you don't have to try so hard anymore. Let's run away together." Wordlessly, I embraced Sergio, tears streaming down my face. "Thank you, Sergio. Thank you." Sergio had been watching over me, staying by my side all along. Sergio had been there for me, melting away my hardened feelings. Encouraged by Sergio, I packed my bags that day and moved with him to my mom's hometown, ignoring calls from Danny and my mill. About 3 months had passed since then. When Sergio and I were enjoying our day off, the doorbell rang. Peering through the peephole, I saw Danny, whom I hadn't seen since the funeral day, standing outside. I opened the door, and Danny glared at me. "What do you want now?" "Oh, Michaela, it's been a while. I missed you." "Is Sergio here too?" With a chill down my spine from his casual tone, I asked again. "What do you want?" "I've missed you guys. We're family, right?" "Huh? What's that? What's your real intention?" I maintained my composure, and Danny stopped grinning. "Michaela, actually, my mom has cancer and is hospitalized." "Oh, really?" Danny seemed flustered by my response. "Since she wasn't covered by medical insurance, we're short on treatment costs. You got an inheritance from your mom, right? $100,000. No, even $50,000 would do. Please lend it to me." As he pleaded, I grew annoyed with his clasped hands and said, "Why? Your family is wealthier, right? You don't need to borrow money from me." "Well, my dad accumulated debt in business. Now, we're overwhelmed by repayments. We're family, right? Please help us out." Avoiding my gaze, he confessed. I retorted, "Shouldn't you just leave the old hag alone?" For a moment, Danny looked surprised, then erupted in rage like a wildfire. "How dare you to say such merciless things? You're awful." I merely repeated what was said to my mom. "Any problem with that?" As I calmly replied, Danny's anger intensified. "How could you talk like that to your husband?" "Husband? What are you talking about? We're not family anymore." "What?" Bewildered, Danny was handed a completed divorce form. "Please sign this right away." "What? Divorce? Are you serious?" With a dumbfounded expression, Danny stared at the divorce form. "Of course, I'm serious. I'll claim child support for Sergio and compensation for years of mental anguish. A lawyer's already been arranged." "A lawyer? Are you serious? You're going to raise Sergio in a single mother household?" As Danny, red-faced, screamed, Sergio emerged from inside the house. Upon seeing Sergio, Danny's tone changed drastically. "Oh, Sergio, your mom says she's divorcing me. You don't want to be in a single mother household, right? You don't want to be away from your dad and grandma, do you?" Sergio then directed a cold gaze at his father. "Has Dad ever done anything fatherly?" "Huh?" To Danny's feeble response, Sergio continued quietly. "Dad stays home and treats Mom like a servant, and Grandma always bad-mouthed Mom and Grandma who passed away to me." "Sergio, I don't see those people as my family. As long as I have Mom, that's all I need." As Sergio spoke clearly, Danny's anger turned toward him. "What? Have you forgotten the kindness I've shown in raising you?" "I haven't felt any kindness from you. Even if it comes to divorce mediation, I'll testify to how Dad and Grandma treated us." "How could you talk back to your father like this?" As Danny angrily approached Sergio, I stepped in front of him to protect Sergio and yelled at Danny. "Sergio's always been by my side, supporting me. With such a reliable son, we won't lose even in court." Seemingly intimidated by my resolute tone, Danny took a step back. I took a deep breath and said, "Let the lawyer handle the rest. Don't come near us anymore." Pushing a lawyer's business card toward bewildered Danny, I closed and locked the front door. Danny stood outside, shouting "Open up" and "Please" for a while, but gradually grew quieter as he realized there was no response. Eventually, he left. After Danny left, I thanked Sergio, and he smiled. "It's okay, Mom. Let's do our best together from now on." I nodded and squeezed Sergio's hand on my shoulder. Since then, there have been many calls and messages from Danny and my mill, but I ignored them, and gradually, the contact dwindled. 3 months later, according to rumors, Danny borrowed money from relatives to cover my mill's medical expenses. Thanks to that, my mill's illness was cured, but now they seem to be working hard to repay the debt, with the entire family working at a factory. My mill, who had never worked before, and my foe, who had only boasted as a CEO, seem to have started working together. Danny, unable to make ends meet with his previous earnings alone, now works in road construction at night. As for me and Sergio, we sold our parents' house and moved to a new apartment to ensure that Danny and in-laws would not visit us anymore. Starting a new life, Sergio helps with household chores and supports me. From now on, like my deceased mom, I will prioritize making Sergio happy.